part B. Okay? So, of course, sometimes they combine everything into a 35-mark question. Okay? But, so this is part A. And since part A is driven by content and context, it also means memory work. Okay, this is really about memory work. But I'll give you a more granular presentation of the points here. Okay, so you can see how to study. Part B, they tend to ask you about policy measures to tackle market failure. Okay, so when they ask you about policy measures, you realize this one requires this. And now we start to get a sense, what's your balance here? What are the two sides? When you talk about policy measures, you say this policy helps, but this policy has limitations. Very good. Okay. So how it works, pros and cons. Okay. So let me give you a little trick or a little cheat here. Okay. When you talk about limitations, some students tell me, I memorized, but I had a mental block in the exam. I forgot which are the limitations to consider. Okay? Now, in case you forget, then you might want to know that limitations, there are two standard ones. Two standard ones and other generic ones. Okay? This is a small little tip that could help. If you blank out in the exam and you cannot remember a limitation, first, remember that one limitation of any policy relates to its inability to address other root causes of the problem. Okay? So when you're talking about how a certain policy works and you want to highlight the limitations of that policy, right? One standard one is you go back to the root cause of the problem. Okay? For example, if I give you this good, cigarettes, it is a demerit good, correct? What are the two root causes of market failure? Do you remember? Very good. Negative externality. The other one? Sometimes they do not know the true cost of smoking, right? Imperfect information. Yes? So if the question wants you to talk about usefulness of taxation, the drawback here is inability to address this problem. You can tax them, it deals with externality problem because you can internalize the externality, but it does not deal with imperfect info. So it's a standard limitation. Likewise for merit goods. Okay? Merit goods like healthcare, you can give a subsidy, but you're going to say, it doesn't address imperfect information. Okay? So you get a sense of this is a limitation that's very standard. Okay? Or even factor immobility. I know usually we don't like that cause of market failure. We hope it doesn't come up, right? Factor immobility. But if it comes out and then you have a policy like skills upgrading, you can say it deals with occupational immobility. It doesn't deal with geographical immobility. So one way to understand limitation is to go back to the root cause, or I should say root causes of the problem. Okay? Alright, so if let's say this is one limitation, the other limitation, okay, is when you incur a trade-off. Or you could see how it worsens the original problem. You will find these two limitations very useful when you do macroecons next year more extensively. Okay? So when you say how it worsens the original problem, if you have taxation, we often say you could overtax until a larger deadweight loss results. Okay? So when you overtax until you have a bigger deadweight loss, that is also worsening the original problem. So if you go through the notes, you go through some of the answers, you realize how come the focus is always over taxation, over subsidization. Why not so much on under? Because when you under tax, you're still improving the problem. Or rather, you're still improving the situation. Later we'll see some diagrams, okay? So any questions here? So I just gave you a sense that in part B, you need policy pros and cons. Okay, I don't know whether you see this as good or bad news, but memory work also helps. In the guidebook, page 81 to 85. Okay, if you look at pages 81 to 85 of my guidebook, I have summarized the pros and cons there. 81 is here. Okay, so evaluating policies to tackle market failure. Okay, pros and cons. Different types of market failure, different policy solutions. I have summarized everything into one table, easier for you to see. Okay, so this can complement your school notes, but this is more for quick reference. Okay, so this is just a side measure or side mention. Evaluation. Remember, evaluation starts with a synthesis. A synthesis means we want a stand. A stand means we try to bring in words like most and significant into the answer. Correct? Synthesis, you can also split by context. So when you split by context, you could say long run, short run. Okay? Or if it's market failure, you can even split by root cause of market failure. The third one is when you challenge your analysis. You may recall the same framework being applied to DDSS last week. Okay, so when you have 1, 2, 3 here, now this is what you can do. Okay, in terms of a stand, okay, for part B, you could suggest which is the most effective policy. Okay, so if they give you a certain cause of market failure, and then they ask you whether this is the best way, you could say which is the most effective policy. You can even split into short run, long run. Long run is usually education. That's the most sustainable because you change their mindset. Okay? Or you could even split based on, okay, if let's say the root cause is externality, then tax or subsidy is most effective. But to deal with imperfect information, education is most effective. You can split along these two lines. Okay, this is by root cause. Right, so we are done 1 and 2. Okay. And when you challenge your analysis, if you can suggest, are you familiar with this concept, government failure? Heard of this before? Government failure? Okay, government failure is usually when you have two things, okay? When you could over tax or over subsidize until the new dead weight loss is larger. Okay, so this is the first form of government failure. Second form of government failure is when you have a government producer, all right? And the government producer is not profit driven, hence it has poor controls over costs, inefficient